Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. So this morning, we started off with CPI data that basically came in line, and the markets really celebrated, pushing the stock market higher up today, hitting brand new all-time highs on the S&P 500. Got to tip your cap to the markets. Unbelievable recovery that we've seen so far from the April lows, but we're running into some areas of resistance that investors need to be aware of. We're going to get into that in a moment. But first, let's go to the market summary. Check out what happened today. We've got Dow Jones up now 1.09%, S&P 500 up 1.34, or pardon me, NASDAQ up 1.34%, S&P 500 1.12%. US oil down 1.31%. Gold is basically flat, up 0.15%. Bitcoin is pushing up nicely, almost 1% at 0.81%. Very nice move on Bitcoin today. Ethereum is actually over 4,500 as we speak. Very impressive move on these cryptocurrencies. So, all right, so let's jump into the S&P 500 heat map, as you see here. And what do we see on a positive day? A lot of green on the screen, folks. We've just got green galore with this push up. Now, this push up wasn't a violent push. It was just a moderate continued push higher throughout the day. Meta up 3.24%, Microsoft 1.48%, Google 1.26%, AVGO up 2.95%, Apple up 1.12%, Tesla's up, Eli Lilly's up, you name it. Just about everything across the board is up. The ones that are down, the stocks that are down, are only down very minimal amounts. So it's a nice green day on the market. So we jump into the S&P 500 and you see this big green candle eclipsing this red candle. This is important, folks. I'm going to zoom in on this because this pattern that was developing beforehand was an inside bar bearish pattern. Should we get a close above this candle, which looks like we're about to do so in about 2.5 minutes, we're going to be negating that bearish sentiment. But that doesn't mean like the bearish options for any price coming down are over. It just means that right now in the near term, in immediate near term, the next couple of days, this is looking fairly positive on the markets. Notice the bottom end of this parallel channel, which will be the next resistance, is at 6,468 points there on the SPX. Now, I want to zoom back out and show you too, basically why I'm coming to this conclusion that we are coming into a lot of resistance. If I make another parallel channel from this pivot and I string it across over to the lows in April and then go up on the charts to the very top to make sure I include this pivot, look where current price action is, guys. We're basically right on the edge of that long-term parallel. So if I just get rid of this so that you can see this one new parallel, this is a completed chart right here. It looks like should we poke above, which surely could happen, we could have a bull trap scenario play out over the coming days. But whenever price comes from the very bottom of a parallel all the way up to the top, we would likely start seeing some profit taking, price action to come down on the charts and even come as low as the 50% area of this parallel channel, which is roughly right around 57.77. So that would be a steep decline on the S&P 500 should that occur. But right now it's all bulls on board, but we are butting up against resistance. Important to keep that in mind. We do have potential for another area of resistance right above, but definitely be wary for investors going long right now at all-time highs. That could be a dangerous scenario. We'll see how that all plays out. Next up, we got the Qs. Now, the Qs have done a great job pushing through this little area of resistance with these numerous trend lines. It's just barely paused, gapped up, kept moving, and then today accelerated through this trend line. Really remarkable move. So next area of resistance on the Qs was arrived from drawing a trend line from this pivot on July 11th over to this pivot here on December 16th. Taking that all the way across, we come up there to resistance roughly at 592. But if this takes several days to get there, you know what that means? The likelihood of this $600 psychological level will be tagged. And if I move this trend line over, you can see roughly it's going to be sometime at the beginning of September when we potentially could hit that trend line and $600 at the same point on the Qs. Be watching for that level if and when it does hit. SMH today, great move. Finally, we busted into this inclining parallel channel. We made several attempts over the previous couple of weeks of trading. Even yesterday and 2 days prior, we were trying just to get up into this parallel. Finally, we're able to do it. So that now means tomorrow. Tomorrow, will we have an SMH close above today's candle high? If so, that flips this bottom area of the parallel into support, which then means we could be moving higher on the SMH. Next major level of resistance is right here at the 50% area of this parallel at 320 and 48 cents. Next up, we've got IWM. IWM also stellar day of the indices. This one received the biggest inflow of capital, up 2.96% for the day. Big move on the IWM. Also, big green candle. When is the last time you've seen a candle this big on the chart? Well, you've got to go pretty far back to see that big of a green candle. And, you know, this one right here in the April lows. But before that, we're talking about right over here, April 2nd is about the same size candle. So a very big, good day for the IWM. Should this buying pressure continue? Next resistance we're watching just under 230 at 229 and 30 cents. Next up, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as we see here yesterday, had a massive push above this inclining parallel, ultimately got rejected, and then price action today has now pushed up higher than yesterday's close. Ultimately, we're starting to consolidate. Now, notice here, we only had 2 days of consolidation before we ripped higher. So now we've had, in essence, 2 days of consolidation again. Be watching for another attempted move higher on Bitcoin, potentially tomorrow. Now, keep in mind, again, Bitcoin closes 8 o'clock Eastern time at night. All right, next up, gold. Gold, as you see here, really just kind of went sideways today. Nothing new to report on gold except for support down here, 32.96, resistance at the top end of this declining trend line, which would be 33.86 on the chart. Next up, silver did also push a little bit higher today, but not too much to report here either. We do still have this minor support, 36.58, since it was already tagged right here. So be watching for price action should it fall to stall out, pause, or even put in a small bounce in that area, 36.58. Should we move higher, this trend line will catch price currently under $40, right at $39.77. Next up, US oil is consolidating also today. The last 3 days really stayed in the same price range. However, that's still pointing towards bearish consolidation and a further movement lower on this chart. Still eyeing a target at this declining trend line that keeps moving away the longer that the price takes to get to it. Currently right around $59 here on the chart. Next up, NAC Gas. NAC Gas, as you see here, we were talking about this declining trend line, how price kept getting saved. It hit it, and then came back down. And yesterday's low actually hit it again, finished up higher on the day. Today, we finally closed down underneath this declining trend line. That now opens the door for this support area, $2.55, to be tagged. That should be a significant level of support for a potential bounce play on NAC Gas. So be watching that in the coming days. Next up, we've got a couple earning plays that take place today after the bell. And I was hoping by this time, it's 4:03 Eastern time, we'd have some sort of movement on Regetti that we could go over these support and resistance levels. Now, first, to the upside, we have near-term bullish consolidation. And I say near-term from February or August 1st all the way through today. We have this nice move up and sideways consolidation. That does imply potential movement higher on earnings. The level of resistance I'm watching, first one will be minor right here at these pivot highs, $17.40. But I'm going to be watching up here as Regetti really can run if it gets a lot of investor sentiment, right at $19.56. Now, if we do disappoint on earnings, first level of support down here, most aggressive level, $13.37, a little Goldilocks zone right here at $12.13, and the most conservative level down here at $10.88. I would likely be a buyer down here for a swing trade should price action come down over the next coming days here for Regetti. All right, next up, we've got Cava. Cava also has earnings after the bell today. Now, notice Cava's daily pattern. If I scroll back out on the chart, you can see from this pivot high that was placed on the chart back in November of last year, I have a longer-term trend line stringing through this pivot, and then price action over the last couple weeks or so has really been making a strong effort to break above here. And if you notice on this one candle right here, we did confirm the breakout. So that means that this declining trend line right here is support. And you notice yesterday we caught support here. We actually closed a little bit beneath it, but that ultimately brought price above it today. So this support area is still working for Cava. The likelihood I see is that Cava actually will go higher on earnings. Now, earnings are a coin flip. We'll see if this plays out. First level of resistance I'm seeing for Cava is 94.17, followed by 109.13. That would be more of a swing trading level there on Cava. Should earnings disappoint, down here 71.50 is where you'll be watching for some major support on the chart of Cava. All right, next up, we've got CRWV, CoreWeave. CoreWeave also has earnings coming up soon. You can see here earnings after the bell. Looks like we have some post-market action pulling price down. If this continues, major level of support down here at 118.59. Now keep in mind, CoreWeave is involved with AI development. So this has been a hot stock. Needless to say, look at this rapid move up down here from the April lows down here, $35. Got a high up here around $187. Massive move. So we had a profit-taking scenario, creating this support trend line, which is where a lot of support will be for CoreWeave should price sell out. Watch 118.59. If price moves up, the next levels of resistance are 168.55, followed by 177.17. Next up, we have SE. SE reported earnings after the bell, or pardon me, before the bell this morning. And price action, as you see, nice double beat. Investors love that. Price ripped higher to the tone of over 20% today. But you see where price stopped. If I scroll back out on this chart, you can see here on SE, we've got two major pivot points right here. This first pivot point back in March of 22, and then the next one in August of 22, both of which contained price movement today. You can see price is now closing beneath the older trend line right here, which is roughly right around 175 on the chart, but price accelerated through this today, almost tagged, basically kissed this next trend line roughly around 178.50, and then started retreating on the chart. A lot of resistance right here in the near term for SE. Watch and see how it marches forward. If it continues pushing up, it likely still will catch resistance at this next inclining trend line. But if it breaks through that trend line, the target will be over $200 at $203.52. Nice move potentially here for SE on this stock. Next up, we've got TME. As you see here also, TME did report earnings today prior to the bell. And folks, how do you find a level on something like this? When you're presented with earnings on a particular stock and you see something like this happening on this stock, what do? How do you find a level? Where do you know it's going to stop moving up? Well, I'll help you go step by step to give you some thought process of what I would do analyzing this chart. So we've got a blank screen here, blank canvas. First off, I'm going to find a pivot. So a pivot level is right here on TME, and I find another pivot. So I'm going to string this over to that pivot. Okay, that comes under price action. So that will be a support level if price comes down into it. Okay, so now on the grander scale, where do we find major levels of resistance? Well, I pulled out my Fibonacci retracement tool, and I'm getting the low pivot here roughly in March of 22, and I took the high pivot there, and voila. Looky here, guys. Right today, price action accelerated up off of fantastic earnings, but where did it stop? We got a high today at $25.98. You can see it over here on the screen, $25.98. Where's that 786 fib retrace? $25.98. You want to be able to spot levels like a pro. Guys, follow us, take our educational courses. We're trying to help the investors learn to isolate these levels. You can do it your own, and you're going to sound like a wizard and a magician when you start pinpointing levels to the penny, like what happened here on TME. Resistance at $25.98, boom, to the penny. Price action stopped there, came right back in. You can make a lot of money when you understand how to read charts and when you understand when charts pivot. That's when you make the most money, because price action is starting to turn, and then you make profit for every penny when that action does turn for you in that favor. Really cool stuff displayed right here on that chart of TME. Finally, we got UAL. Notice here on UAL, massive push higher. Now, this is a little bit obscure. They had news came out that they're going to be increasing their fares, which is great. However, their flight attendants and their passengers aren't really as high as in previous years. This year's been a struggle year for UAL. but then they decided to raise rates, and then all of a sudden investors rejoice and start pushing the price higher on the stock. Ultimately, investors like revenue and margin, right? So I guess to some degree, I don't blame them. However, it's just kind of an unusual move. Basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now 8, a big move up 8 days in a row. Unusual, but nonetheless, here's where price is, and it's not due to earnings or any of that. So should this momentum continue, be watching 102.30. Notice how that level of resistance comes into the bottom end of all of these pivots collected at the most recent pivot high here on UAL. That area will serve good resistance, especially if we move in there with this rapid ascent like tomorrow, with the 9th day of the candle moving up from this low here on August 1st. All right, guys, a lot of big movers in the stock market. The S&P 500 new all-time highs, unbelievable move. But as you've seen, we're right into resistance. What will come tomorrow? Also, please note, jobs reports have apparently been suspended for the time frame. So we won't be having that report come out in the near term, which is something the Fed really likes to use to help gauge whether and when they're going to be cutting rates. Interesting developments coming along. I'll have the updates to you guys tomorrow. Until then, I'll see you on the charts. Have a great day.